There's a line of dialogue in the movie Fury that gives you chills. It's spoken early in the film by Shia LaBeouf's character Bible, and it was used heavily in the promotional trailers before the film's release. And there's a reason. It's not just a sharp delivery or a great performance from Shia. It's a setup for a payoff that doesn't arrive until the film's final moments. When Bible meets Norman, one of the first things he says to him is this:
"Wait until you see."
See what?
What a man can do to another man.
At first, it feels like a warning, a hardened soldier preparing a new recruit for the brutality of war. But by the end of the film, when Norman is the only survivor of a climactic battle, hiding beneath the very tank where he's learnt some hard lessons, a young German soldier shines a light on him, and we finally see the meaning of that line. The two lock eyes, and in that moment we witness it. What a man can do to another man. The young German soldier shows him mercy. He doesn't reveal Norman's position. He keeps silent and marches on. It's a quiet, powerful moment that few people connect back to that line, and it encapsulates everything Fury is about. It's this full circle moment that made me want to look deeper into the film. To see how, despite its tactical inaccuracies, Fury stands as a striking metaphor for breaking the cycle of damnation. If you haven't seen Fury, it's a 2014 war film directed by WWII. The story follows a 5-man Sherman tank crew in the final weeks of World War II, as they trudge deeper into enemy-occupied Germany. Brad Pitt plays Staff Sergeant Don Wardaddy Collier, a battle-hardened tank commander leading his exhausted crew. We've got Bible, Gordo, and Kunas, all of whom have survived together for years. One of their crew members dies before the film starts, and our story kicks off with a new recruit, Norman, a young typist who's never seen combat, being assigned as their replacement gunner. That setup is the crux of the film. What follows is a study of 5 very different men, how war has shaped their minds and what it's about to do to Norman. The relationship between Don and Norman quickly takes center stage, and on the surface it's your typical portrait of a battle-hardened man taking a young recruit under his wing. But it goes much deeper than that, and it only becomes truly clear when you factor in a scene that the filmmakers chose to leave out. The deleted scene I'm referring to is called Rose on the DVD extras, and it's a moment that gives Brad Pitt's character the context he desperately needed. It adds a layer of humanity that changes how you see every decision he makes, especially this scene, and this shot here. The camera is quietly suggesting Don sees a reflection of himself in Norman. But without the deleted scene, we don't understand that. We just think it's clever cinematography. The deleted scene also reframes his final choice to stay behind and make a last stand with his tank at the crossroads, giving it a weight that's missing from the theatrical cut. I'll explain why soon, but it's one of those rare scenes that could have completely changed how audiences understood Don, why he treated Norman the way he did, and what the movie was saying as a whole. It would have turned Don from a one-dimensional battle-hardened stoic commander into a man haunted by guilt. And I can't, for the life of me, understand why the filmmakers cut it out. The scene I'm talking about happens shortly after the one where all our characters dine with 2 German women, which we'll revisit soon. Sadly, the women are killed when the town is bombed, and Norman is shaken. He's just shared a rare romantic moment with a younger woman before losing her. Don invites him up onto the tank for a chat as they head to their next spot. Don reveals the scars on his back that Norman witnessed previously came long before the war, from a drunken car accident he caused while driving his fiancée and younger brother away from a fight he'd started at a dance. He lost control of the car, flipped it, snapped their necks in the process, and burnt his back on the engine. He killed his fiancée and his younger brother. Heavy stuff. The war began, and the judge presiding over his case told him to go die for his country. Words Don clearly took to heart, as he tells Norman it was the best advice he ever got. On top of that, he reveals his younger brother's name was also Norman. This small scene, which never made it into the final cut, completely reshapes how the film plays. Don isn't a man of honour, but in fact a man of dishonour. It reshapes so many of his moments, his relationship to Norman, who he clearly sees as his younger brother, and completely reshapes his entire journey, not as one of heroism, but of damnation. We'll come back to Don soon, but I want to shift the focus to Shia LaBeouf's character Bible for a second, as it's he who gives us our final layer to Don later in the film. Bible is easily one of the most intriguing men of the five. There's a contrast in him that often goes unnoticed. Bible constantly quotes scripture, and at first glance it seems like he's the group's spiritual anchor. But the deeper you look, the more his faith feels performative. He contradicts himself several times throughout the film, which leads one to believe it's a facade he's built to make sense of the horrors he's seen and committed. Early in the film, after the death of their former crewmate Red, Bible tells Wardaddy that his number was up.
You didn't kill Red, Germans did.
That is true, but I didn't save him either.
His number came up, that's all.
It's a remark that reveals a belief in divine timing, in God's plan for who lives and dies. Yet that belief immediately clashes with his later words to Norman, that none of them would still be here if it weren't for Don. In one hand, he speaks about destiny and God's plan, and in the other, it's revealed his faith doesn't lie in God, but in the man leading them through hell. In the previous scene where the crew are attacking a tree line, we see him laugh and even marvel at himself as he fires the tank's cannon straight into a German soldier, sending him sky high. But minutes later, he kneels beside a dying German soldier, gently praying with him. It's not explicitly stated, but the character of Bible is clearly going through an inner conflict. His constant citing of scripture throughout the film feels less like preaching to others and more like trying to convince himself. I don't believe his faith is steady. It's a coping mechanism, and this is what makes his character so compelling. We subconsciously pick up on the contradictions. And this coping mechanism is front and center in the last piece of scripture he cites in the film, which also feeds straight into the audience seeing Wardaddy in a whole new light. When the men are waiting for the oncoming army of Germans in their busted up tank, Bible recites a passage from the book of Isaiah. I unfortunately can't show the full clip for copyright reasons, but he says,
There's a Bible verse I think about sometimes. Many times. It goes, Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send? And who will go for us? And I said, Here am I. Send me.
It's a powerful moment for two reasons. The first is that it confirms Bible uses scripture to justify the war to himself. In this instance, even though he's clearly terrified and crying, he frames their decision to hold the crossroads as a righteous act, rather than accepting whatever fate God might have planned for him. And second, it allows us to see Don in a completely different light, as he himself reveals the passage the quote is drawn from.
Book of Isaiah, chapter 6.
It suggests that Don has been a man of religion this whole time. Earlier, we saw him making fun of Bible's religious beliefs, and here we see he knows scripture by memory. This whole moment would have been even more powerful if the deleted scene about his past was kept in the final cut of the film. The fact that Don knows this specific quote from the Bible makes me think of this shot earlier in the film, funnily enough. It's probably the most beautiful image in an otherwise grim, desaturated film. Our characters quite literally look to the heavens and watch a massive Allied bomber fleet heading in for a run. Then, breaking through the clouds, 5 German fighter planes meeting them head on. 5 against hundreds. Emphasis on the 5. It's a quiet piece of visual foreshadowing, a metaphor for what's to come when our 5 men face hundreds of German soldiers at the crossroads. But beyond that, it speaks to the one scene they cut from the film, the one scene that humanizes Don. With that scene in mind, it feels like he's been preparing to die. Somewhere deep down, he's taken the judge's words of "go die for your country" as gospel. For him, the war is his damnation, and he's decided that redemption can only come through sacrifice, and this moment in the sky feels like a silent omen to that fate. It makes this moment all the more impactful. Without the deleted scene, Don choosing to stay and fight in a disabled tank plays like Hollywood bravado. A commander staying behind, alone, to face hundreds of German soldiers is absurd. It was the one moment that pulled me out of the film. But with the deleted context, the scene transforms. After killing his fiancée and younger brother, and being told to go die for his country, Don has found a strange sense of peace inside his tank. He even calls it home. It's the one place he believes he can do right again. He's not going to abandon it. He stays to hold the crossroads because it feels like the only moral path left, to fulfill the orders he's been given, and as hinted by his memorization of scripture, to serve God and to finally redeem himself. The deleted scene of Don admitting to killing his fiancée and younger brother shifts the way we view the entire film. But nowhere is that change more profound than in the apartment scene with the two German women. When it's just Norman and Don in the apartment, Norman begins playing the piano while Don quietly washes up. Emma, the younger woman, joins in and starts singing the Virgin Slumber song, a lullaby about Mary rocking baby Jesus to sleep. It's a peaceful melody that stands in complete contrast to everything we've seen. For a moment, the film grants us a sense of rest, and we watch Don drift into a kind of trance. He's remembering. Norman and Emma appear in the mirror over his shoulder, framed like a reflection of the life he once had. A brother, a fiancé, a future. It feels like a brief glimpse of heaven in the middle of hell. Then the song stops. Emma notices the burn scars on Don's back. The illusion breaks. Don snaps back into a hardened version of himself, and almost defensively he pushes Norman toward action, telling him to take Emma into the room or he will. It's a sudden reminder that whatever softness once lived inside Don has been buried under his guilt. It's one of the most impactful scenes in the film, and when seen through the lens of Don's deleted backstory, it becomes a defining moment in his character arc. The war is Don's damnation. He killed his fiancée and brother. His hometown resents him. A judge told him to go die for his country. He, amidst the war, amidst his damnation, he reaches for peace wherever he can find it. But every time he gets close to it, it's taken away. The lullaby, promising rest, comes to an abrupt stop when Emma sees the scars on his back. And his quiet meal is ruined the moment his crew barges in. He's a man trying to find peace under the weight of the guilt he carries. And with all the religious connotations woven throughout the film, it feels like God isn't granting it to him. And how fitting that when it's all over, after the men make their last stand and only Norman remains, we get this shot, a God shot of the tank, as if a higher power is finally acknowledging what these men have given. The tank has been Don's punishment, the war his damnation, and in the end, his deliverance. The others stayed and fought because they've always followed Don. But I feel Norman stays for a different reason. After learning Don's tragic past, perhaps he understands the weight that this man is carrying. He sees what this final act means to him. It's not glory but a release. And then we come back to that opening line, what another man can do to another man. In the end, Norman is granted mercy by his enemy. After everything he has done to stay alive, it's compassion that saves him. It's the choice not to kill that breaks the cycle the others were trapped in. Soon after, American soldiers pull him from under the tank and call him a hero, unaware of the men who died above him. What blows my mind is how one deleted scene can reshape an entire film into something far more powerful. With it, the film isn't just another generic war story, but about a man wrestling with his own soul, about a man who believes the only way to find peace is to die doing good. Through that lens, everything else in the film clicks into place. The title of the film stops feeling like a badass war name for a tank and instead becomes a word for what Don has been living through all along. Fury.